keep telling my kids all the time, there are only two professions which are worth following in the country, with due respect to all the other good ones. Either you start a private equity fund and become an investor, or even better, become an entrepreneur.
I think just think of a problem that you really want to solve. Don't try and solve a problem that somebody else is solving and you think you can do it better or cheaper or faster on that part. I think it's just the way to think about it. I think.
So if you see in Tamil Nadu, one way you can argue is it is here this is startup Singam. So I would say it's a Putin Singam. Singams are all here. In fact, even police also sitting by the side, one or two Sirita is not only in Madhya Pradesh but here also. But fundamentally it's a caged talent, and a result they all go to your city you mentioned, known as Bangalore West.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I know this was originally supposed to be a tete, not exactly a menage a trois. It was supposed to be a tete-a-tete between two people. But I'm like the third wheel today, because yesterday Gopal called me and said, Chandu, if Mithun and I sit down and talk, it'll go back to very familiar discussions, like as if we are having a cup of tea, or maybe something stronger after 8 o'clock anyway. So he said, why don't you come? So I felt a little bit like the third wheel initially. So in Hindi, there's an expression called kabab mein haddi. But because I know them well, I'll say I'm a kabab mein buddi. So that's basically it. And very funny actually, We have kind of 3 M's out here in a very funny way. One is a long-time Madrasi, who's like a corporate chieftain and all that. Then is a traditional Marwadi turned fellow with a phenomenal exit. And the third is a Mallu. So 3 M's, and we're going to talk about the 4th M, which is money. So that's really the common binding factor between all of this. Now, Gopal, I'll start with you. I think you've run legacy businesses. You've also started very innovative businesses back in the day. You had TVS Electronics, first one to make all kinds of printers. You had Cherry Switches collaboration with membrane switches many, many years ago. Many things you did, and then you came into funding. You've been around, seen this for more than 4 decades or more. What are the key changes that you've seen in the entrepreneurship and funding scenario across India, and particularly with reference to Tamil Nadu?
Thank you, and thank you, Chandu, for doing this, because this is not basically masala bina kebab hi nahi. There is no kebab without masala. So we wanted masala to get the kebab to go in the right place. I think the change that clearly all of us see in India is just that incremental layer on layer and layer of scale that has taken place since 1990. So if you take, now we are in 34 or 35th year of quote unquote the liberalization phase. So whether it's fresh talent which has joined across 30 years from IIMs, IITs, engineering, and just without college even, or whether it is basically each company scaling higher and higher and higher, just sheer talent. It's just not the GDP number going from 1 to 4. It is a talent that is available, which is unbelievable. Every corner of India you go to, you just have to scratch and the talent sap pours out. That I think is a primary story. All these levels of capability have created ecosystems, have created governance levels, have created subject matter depth. But the core of this is talent. So I keep telling my kids all the time, there are only 2 professions which are worth following in the country, with due respect to all the other good ones. Either you start a private equity fund and become an investor, or even better, become an entrepreneur. So those are the only, in my mind, that is a jugalbandi that is going to take India forward. But I would just say one word: sheer talent and level on level on level of complexity coming through, and resulting in one thing, Chandu. Indians becoming self-confident about their way of doing business and their thinking. No need to cut, copy, paste an American model or a European model. Mithun is a classic example of it. Right? People like Hemchandar, the way they've done their business, he's also a startup, personify that we can think first principles, be very confident of our Indianness after our Bharatiyatvam, and then go forward. That I think is the main thing that I see. Nothing very earth-shaking, but it is so powerful.
That's, I think, a very interesting and I thought you'll give a far more long-winded explanation of what happened in 40 years and all that. I thought it'll take a little more time. But I'm very happy that you stuck to a very simple thing. Mithun, a lot of people don't realize that you actually started more than 16 years ago. It's almost, next year will be the 19th year since you started, 2008 you started Carrot Lane, so it will have been the 17th year. A lot of people believe that success for a lot of these new age companies comes very fast. But I think Lionel Messi said it, Shah Rukh Khan said it, overnight success takes about 15 years. And you exemplify that. Now you come from a traditional business, Jaipur Gems and Jewelers. You reimagined the jewelry business. You looked at it afresh. You also went through the same funding journey. Today you're an investor also of note. You work with a lot of people. In your mind, what are the biggest differences that you see in the last 15, 18 years of your journey as an entrepreneur and as an investor? And what are the kind of things that you'd like to tell here to the audience, especially the startup fraternity? What are the things that you will give as your learnings from these last 16 years?
I didn't realize it was that long, but it certainly didn't feel that long. Look, the environment has dramatically changed. 15 years back when I had to raise capital, there were possibly 10 funds in the country that you knew who could go to. I went to Gopal as well, and I went to a whole bunch of other people at that point. But there were 10. And you were circulating between these 10, and you were trying to figure that out. So now, also everybody has a finite amount of capital, and so your probability of getting funded is that much lower because you're circulating. Now, there is even people like me start something, and start funding and doing things like that, where you have capital and you feel excited about it. So I can't even count now how many funds are there in India, and every week you hear of something new that comes up as well. So the opportunity to get funded now is very, very large. The other side of it is the risk side. And I think enough people have now seen success at a very early stage, and our pink newspapers and our digital media have sort of made heroes out of them as well also. And I think it emboldens a lot of people to now take this bet as well also. So I think like most other places, we are going to see a lot of people trying to take this and go forward in this route. If you were to take numbers 10 years back, how many businesses came out of one place as to how many are coming out of any other place, I think that number is significantly larger now. What would I say to people about how do they go about it? I think just think of a problem that you really want to solve. Don't try and solve a problem that somebody else is solving and you think you can do it better or cheaper or faster on that part. I think it's just the way to think about it. I think a classic example is people were trying to solve for convenience through e-commerce, and that really got solved through quick commerce. It didn't really get solved as much from e-commerce, but quick commerce really solved that. And I think just the way of thinking about that part makes a world of a difference. We've seen that around tech in this ecosystem, the entire SaaS boom that happened, and I have no doubt that we're going to see a lot of that happen with Gen AI out of Tamil Nadu as well, more than any other place as well also on that. As far as smaller businesses or opportunities, like finding sunrise in the category you play in, which is what I did. Like, I'm not in one of these tech businesses which are infinite scale kind of businesses. But in every business category that is a traditional business category, mine is a thousands of years category as well, there is always a new sunrise in that category as well also. And if people can look for that sunrise, that's the business that's likely to find any kind of success over a longer period of time. And today the capital is available to sort of patiently back you to make that happen as well.
Coming to you, Gopal, we have a neighbor roughly 3 kilometers to the west of us. And that neighbor is a city begins with B. Just a little ahead of us in the alphabet, but much ahead of us in terms of funding.
Are you referring to Chennai West?
I'm going 330 really kilometers further west, okay?
Chennai West is how I thought it was called.
I want to just, if I look at 2014 to the first half of 2024, Inc. 44 says 150 billion plus was raised in funding, roughly, across the board. It's a fairly largish number, I believe, if I got the numbers right. Just 1 second. I just need to probably look at my numbers yet again. Roughly, sorry, 151 billion, correct. And the sad part is 3 cities, this neighbor, NCR and Bombay, accounted for 89% of the funding. Of this 151, how much came to Chennai? Just 4 billion. So, 4 billion out of 151. We are just not even 3% of the total funding over the last 10 odd years. So since we are talking about invoking the spirits of entrepreneurship here, what explains this? 151 billion and only 4 billion to Chennai, Tamil Nadu?
I think this is a complex problem, Chandu, and maybe a subject in itself, right? The biggest strength of Tamil Nadu is talent. I think talent is the story. Talent with a good attitude, talent with Shraddha, willing to work hard, talent to get into detail and get things done. So if you see in Tamil Nadu, one way you can argue is here they say startup Singam. So I would say it's a Putin Singam. The Singams are all here. In fact, even police also sitting by the side, 1 or 2 Siritais, not only in Madhya Pradesh but here also. But fundamentally, it's a caged talent, and a result, they all go to your city you mentioned, known as Bangalore West. Chennai West. Or this is Bangalore East. I don't know. I'm getting confused now, right? But I just think the reason so much of talent, if you go to a building in Bangalore, which I do, when I go to visit a company, I always go quietly, alone, unannounced, right? And I will hang around in the lobby, then I'll go hang around in the vending machine, go to the toilet, listen to people, observe people before I go inside. So this is my way of warming up to the building, right? In the vending machine outside, Kit Kat only Tamil you'll hear. Every building. And they'll say, sir, na Salem, sir. All the migration you see. So Tamil Nadu is a talent story. That is the biggest positive of this state, right? Now we are putting a measurement and saying how much of capital came to companies which are headquartered, registered in the state of Tamil Nadu. We are saying that companies which are like ChargeBee or Freshworks, which are totally Tamil companies but domiciled for some other reason, is another category of companies that we have. So I think we should be very cognizant of the fact that we have to nurture the talent. Second thing I see in Tamil Nadu is a general aversion. I don't know, I saw Mr. Ripo Pay somewhere. Ask him, right? These are people who are also hesitant to take money. They take money slowly, right? So there is a general reluctance saying, I lose my name, I lose my face. There's a lot of shame-based culture also. People don't want to get shamed. So people are more hesitant, which I think is very positive, because also means they use their money more efficiently. I'm willing to argue that most of the companies funded in Tamil Nadu per rupee of equity have produced far more revenue and perhaps valuation than a rupee of equity gone into Bangalore. So there is a culture here. There is a culture. The state has a culture. So that may also be a second reason. I think the third reason, I hate to say this, it sounds really stupid. I still remember when this conversation between S.M. Krishna and Madam Jayalalitha, right? And fundamentally, this conversation was about, Bangalore versus Chennai, the same thing you started. So it reminded me of that. And Mr. Krishna said, God bless his soul, said that basically, Madam, we have great weather in Bangalore. And Madam Jayalalitha, God bless her soul, turned around and said, but sir, that's the only thing you have, right? So this is on record. Now the question is, weather is a factor that you have to factor. There is a fantastic study done by an urban economist in America, where in 1960-70, when the US GDP per capita goes over a certain tripping point, suddenly investments are not being made in Minneapolis and Indiana and Ohio and Michigan and blah, blah, Pennsylvania. Everybody is investing in Texas and California and Seattle and Arizona, right? Weather is a factor. So we should make weather our friend and not our enemy. So the fact is, we make Tamil Nadu equals Chennai, Chennai equals Tamil Nadu. Actually, if you look at it, Tamil Nadu, the western part of Tamil Nadu is a natural bet that we should put. The question is why, how come IIT Madras has got no campus in Hosur? How come we don't have a huge tech park in Hosur where, shall we say, social relaxation is not applied? You know what I mean by social relaxation. So there are many, many things that we are not taking advantage of weather. Yes. Unfortunately, it's empty, but yeah. But I think we are not, talent is one advantage, but we have better weather than all of Bangalore. We don't have to go to Tiruvannamalai to find out the top of the mountain in Tiruvannamalai is 2,972 feet, which is same as Bangalore. But there is plenty of it in Coimbatore and Nilgiris and around Coimbatore basin on the plain. So these are three things I would say. Basically, talent is with us. We have an attitude of being very cautious in taking money, and we are worried about our name and shame. And thirdly, we are not exploiting weather by equating Chennai equals Tamil Nadu. I would say Tamil Nadu minus Chennai is where we should focus. Forget about Chennai.
Okay, that's a very, I think, fascinating geographical, point. But Mithun, you are an investor now, and you've also been part of several networks. And now, when you look at the applications that you receive or the pitches that you hear, how many of them really are from Tamil Nadu itself, as opposed to from other places? Because if I look at even something like our Chennai Angels, last year I think we got about 2,800 applications. Wow. I would dare say, and of which I think you finally invested only in about 30, so one in about less than 100, one in about 100 or so. That's the hit rate. But if you were to take the number from Tamil Nadu, it is far lesser than from other states, some other states. Why is that the case, that there are not enough entrepreneurs wanting to pitch? They're looking at other kinds of monies, or they want to build other kinds of businesses. What is happening? Because you're an investor now. Can you just let us know what you see as the environment?
Yeah, I will always be an operator. Investment just happens when you have capital. But otherwise, I will always be an operator. It's not my skill set to be an investor. Look, I have a very different take on this subject of why it happens. And I've briefly mentioned it to Gopal, and so forgive me for repeating this again. Tamil Nadu has been blessed. It's a region that had sort of peace for a very long period of time. Since in its recorded history, it has some less than 10 battles which have been fought as well also. The last one happened in 17th AD. I think it was the Dutch Anglo, the Dutch Dutch East India Company that basically had a fight with the British East India Company. It gives you like 150 years of peacetime where people got educated, lots of things happened, things went right as well, and people became risk averse as well at the same time. You look at large parts of America today as well. Nobody thinks about entrepreneurship, right? I mean, there are these large pockets, but going into a job is a very normal thing as well also. Whereas you take other parts of India, there's been so much strife as latest as 1947, where people have fought and, there's been wars and lost family members and everything. And so risk just becomes a part of life itself also. The second piece I feel is that when you live, and Chennai is a place where people leave from. It's not a place that, because there is talent and people have done well, and what we are now calling, this West Chennai is essentially an exodus of Tamilians leaving from here and going across over there. Gone there for weather maybe, but more so because capital was available over there. VCs went across over there, PEs went across over there, IT companies came across over there. All of this happened in the last 20 years. It's really hard actually to build. I'll give you my own example. If I stayed with my parents, I would never be able to build Carrot Lane. When you leave your home and go somewhere else, it's much easier to build a startup as well. Because your parents don't want you to fail. They don't mind if you don't succeed. But they don't want to see you fail. And that's just the love of parents at home as well also. And if you live in this city and in this state with your parents as well, you're really going to struggle because every day they're going to be worried about all the hardships that you go through as well. So the three cities which we are talking about are all exodus cities. People who have left their hometowns and come to these cities and are working independently across over there. If we can get more people to come in, like Gopal said, establish Hosur as a place like that and make that. And Hosur as, frankly, I just cannot understand why we don't exploit Hosur as well also. Just putting an airport there will change everything. But if you were to just exploit a center like that, you'd be amazed to see what a change you'll see. I might not see a lot of investments coming, a lot of companies coming from Tamil Nadu, but I see tremendous amount of businesses coming from Tamilians.
Basically, you're saying you can take the boy out of the country, but you can't take the country out of the boy. So you can take the Tamilian out of Tamil Nadu, but you still have the Tamilian within it.
Look who runs the world today. And the top guys sitting in California and everywhere else have all come from this city and this state.
Okay, so it's a neat segue for me to the next thing, okay. Singapore had the same issue, risk averse. It's so risk averse, I was traveling once there. I asked my friend why he didn't take a U-turn at one spot. So he said, Chandu, I'll explain the fundamental difference between Singapore and India. In Singapore, unless something is expressly allowed, it is forbidden. In India, unless something is expressly forbidden, it is allowed. Okay. So, then they said, look, we have such risk-averse people in Singapore, how do we build entrepreneurship in Singapore? So they imported entrepreneurs, they gave incentives. Why can't Tamil Nadu do something like this? Bring back the Tamilians at least here, who are outside. What is it that Tamil Nadu can do to bring back this, maybe this uncaged Singam which went outside? How do you bring that fellow back here?
I just be very brief, right? I think fundamentally for Tamil Nadu to change, we have to forget our past. Glorification of our past and living in some nostalgia is the worst thing that we can do. For example, saying that, we have had this history, that culture, this person. It is time to, the past can be a burden as much as it can be a legacy, right? So what happened in the last 50, 60 years politically, all these things are best forgotten when it comes to economics. It can be kept for politics. I think that is the first thing that I would say. And just forget about your past and who you are. There's too much, for example, a simple thing like social relaxation of liquor policy, all is unnecessary. The message you're sending to people is you are a very sticky, prickly place to work, right? So if you want to attract people, just forget about your past, just chill. And then as my daughter will say, after chilling what? Chill max. That's right. So I think this attitude of just chilling and not getting too, ayyo, yaar vandutaanga, avanga enna solla poranga, ayyo, na adu correct illiye, avanga da munadi nikkanom. This has to slowly go away, which is why I feel Tamil Nadu ex Chennai is where it can happen, right? So I think if you want to attract talent back, do it in places like Konganadu, do it in places like Krishnagiri, Hosur, where you can create a new environment. The other day, one of my good friends, again a Tamilian, again from Chennai, and again a super successful entrepreneur in his own right, also a member of my investment committee. I went to his son's marriage in such a beautiful place in Tamil Nadu, 140-acre golf course, 100-acre gated community, each house 1 acre. It was so beautiful. Bird life, all kinds of things. It's in a place just outside Karnataka in Tamil Nadu. When I see that place, it's called Clover Greens. We need to create these micro enclaves of Clover Greens where we have relaxed policies. People will automatically come. People will come only for pragmatic reasons. Nobody comes for sentiment. Sentiment is for conversations, not for pragmatic action. So I think we should forget about some of this past sentimentality and nostalgia when it comes to business and just focus on creating practically attractive situations. That's all I would say.
What's your take? You for a person who's been from outside, come inside, but still travel a bit all over the place, what would you say? And also I just want you to touch upon, is there a need, for example, in Tamil Nadu, Gopal, maybe you can also answer it a little later, given the type of businesses that you said and the nature of the entrepreneur, is it also time to relook at how we fund? Because I think the classic VCP model with the 220 type of structure for the LPs, or the 5 to 7 year period, etc. Does it really work for all businesses? Or in Thai Chennai, for example, our earlier focus was also on these new age businesses. But in the last few years, we have gone into this more on the MSME side of things. We have 110 something called personal boards, cohorts of 8 to 10 people, each of whom discuss their various issues, and a lot of issues get thrashed out. So when you have such businesses which maybe generate cash, should we have a dividending out policy, taking out money through royalties like how Shark Tank in the US has, some other different ways of imagining funding? So anyway, first let me ask Mithun, what's your take on what can we do to bring either the Singam who's outside back or to uncage the Singam here?
No, I think a lot has happened across India in building, and I think, forgive me, but I still think of the whole thing as one. And I think that the glass is certainly fuller than it was. So we are doing well. We should recognize that first as well. The reason, and there are psychological factors and there are physical factors because of which people choose where they're going to work or what they're going to do as well also. The psychological factors today are, at least I feel, is that people leave, want to be in a place, safe environment where other people are building as well, and that's like an ecosystem that I want to go and work and sort of do that. And I feel that if you were to choose an area where you can fix for all of these things and build that, and I personally am a massive fan of building anything in Hosur. Maybe I've spent so much time in Hosur because of the factory over there that I'm a big fan of that as well also. But I just cannot, I feel like that's the kind of spot to pick up and say that you're going to build one large epicenter. Second, what is everybody scared of? Failing. If you were to really believe that you celebrate every kind of failure, and that's the message that goes across to every single person. I saw this really strange thing in Sri Lanka. I went to a casino once over there. If you lose 1,50,000 Sri Lankan rupees in that casino, they give you 10% back. It's so odd because they say, take this 10%, but please don't come back and play here today. Another day or whatever it is on that part. It was so startling to me because what they're really doing is leaving you with a feel-good factor. And you will again come back and take this opportunity again. We are always only celebrating success. We have to learn to celebrate failure as well also, because nobody succeeds in one attempt. Everybody takes, most people take 1, 2, 3 attempts before they really get things right. In my case, as I'll tell you, nobody really knows. In 2001, I started Carrotling. It used to be called Gemlinks back then. And it didn't work out. I tried for a year. I tried to raise capital. I didn't know how much to ask. I asked for $50,000. And the guy realized I'm not serious. And so he didn't give me the money as well also at that point. But it takes 2, 3 attempts to figure these things out. So unless you learn to celebrate failure, you will never create a safe environment as well for people to come and start something. The other parts, which are solve for the weather and solve for the infrastructure and everything, that's the only role that the state has. They can only solve for that part. Beyond that, I think everything else has to become on people who really benefit from this ecosystem, which are either entrepreneurs who have benefited, investors who are going to benefit, or any other person who does that part. That's the one way to stop the drain, and the way to also motivate more people to think bigger and sort of go out there and build something large.
So, Vidudalai, Gopal, how does one give Vidudalai to the caged Singam? Who should take the lead and how? He has given some pointers, you have given some pointers.
Only one leader is possible, and that is our mother called India. We are integral to India. Everything that happens to here is because of India. That realization itself will be a very big progress. We are just one angam of this wonderful country. So the leadership, we should see how to also look at what India is doing and not see anything we do in isolation. I'm just stating the obvious. Everybody knows it. There's not one thing that I say which is new. But sometimes I think people forget what is obvious. Within the state, I think fundamentally, minus Chennai is most important leadership move. Saying we do not care what happens in Chennai. We will only care about what happens in Kongunadu, or of course my favorite town, Madurai, which is, I always think is the greatest place in the world. So I think we should focus on places outside where people are actually be willing to come, there are nice, lifestyle can be better, etc. Third thing to remember, Chandu, is what the point that Mithun said. Building a business with the intention to sell is automatically happens when you take funding. You already sold your company, some part of it. You sold a lot of your power to take decisions. So you want to get to IPO, truly built to sell. So that is only 1 to 2% of the economy. Tamil Nadu's greatness in SME is the envy of every state, not just in India, but in the world also. You go to Coimbatore, I think you just inhale, you start a business. Right? Or Tirupur, or Erode, or Karur, and on and on. So let us not forget that we are discussing 1% here. We are not discussing the 99% which makes Tamil Nadu so unique. If you ever want to buy a machine to take nitrogen into bags of snacks that you want to pack, I was looking at doing this for some Hindu organization. Only places in Coimbatore. And there are many, many such examples you'll find in Tamil Nadu. So let us not forget SME Tamil Nadu. Maybe that is the Vidudalai Puli. And maybe this is the uncaged lion.
By the way, yesterday I saw a meme which came, like top ramen noodles, there is a top Lakshman noodles from Coimbatore. So, I mean, there is no Lakshman Rekha for SMEs, I think, in Tamil Nadu. Just one last bit, time's up, I know. On funding, do you think very quickly, can there be a change in how we look at funding given the nature of the beast that we have in Tamil Nadu?
Well, I think the model works for a certain set of companies. Gopal taught me about mess funding. I remember once I took an ice cream business to him, and he said that kind of business should have mess funding on that. Then there are businesses which can be revenue-based funding as well also on that. And I think there can be 20, 30 creative models. You spoke about Shark Tank, and Mr. Wonderful alone lists out some 10 models of how to do transactions and do that. And I think all of those are absolutely valid. It's sad to see that the Indian Shark Tank doesn't have that, but I'm sure we can have that across over here. And those are the more interesting ways of helping other businesses scale, because very hard to take a risk on every business saying only IPO will happen. Yeah.
I just want to add one small thing, Chandu. I still remember when TIE, first time they did awards, I organized awards program in 2006 or something. I remember it was in Children's Theatre. The time it was still there. And very graciously, Kalaignar himself agreed to come. Wonderful. For him to come for a function like this shows how he understood the power of entrepreneurship. And along with him, Ms. Kanimuri also came. And she gave a very beautiful speech there where she said, entrepreneurs need to be recognized. They're like artists. When they fail in particular, they need to be celebrated. And that is so important. And I think what Hemchandar and this entire group are doing in terms of recognizing, I want to say a big hand for all of them for putting this together. I still remember that speech. Can you imagine the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu coming and saying, I will come and give away awards in 2006-07. That shows his vision.
So I think, Startup Singam has got some thoughts on how it can reimagine funding also for the nature of business that we have in Tamil Nadu. I remember Deng Xiaoping many years ago when he took over the reins and he completely changed the direction of China. And he said, when people said, Deng, you're not following the tenets of communism, he made a very famous statement, I don't care about the color of the cat, so long as it catches mice. So I'm hoping that Startup Singam will catch more than mice, and later on it will become, it'll really help uncage all the animal spirits within this room. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.